Nashville Design Week is a platform for bold collaborations and conversations that promote idea sharing, engage and educate the public, and strengthen our city's design culture. We shine a spotlight on designers who are shaping the city's future and facilitate critical conversation about the industry's growth and impact.
2020 has challenged us in every way. A tornado, a pandemic, and a long overdue reckoning with racial inequity. And as we close in on a formative election, we are excited to focus on the power of design to reshape communities and to actively support equity. We are proud to introduce a diverse range of speakers covering everything from racial injustice and inequity to diversity and inclusion, connectivity, and allyship, all through the lens of design.
We're fortunate to partner with design leaders who are invested in the future of Nashville's design community. These leaders see Nashville Design Week as essential and support making design discourse accessible to all. Thank you endlessly to our 2020 sponsors for helping us bring Nashville Design Week to life. Thank you to founding silver sponsor, Hastings. Hastings is a boutique architecture and interior design firm of 75 professionals who are deeply committed to the service of clients, producing award-winning, thoughtful, and impactful architecture. Thank you to silver sponsor, Watkins College of Art and O'Moore College of Architecture and Design at Belmont University. The Watkins College of Art and the O'Moore College of Architecture and Design celebrate the power of art and design to transform people, communities, cultures, and the world. Thank you to our copper sponsors, Elevated Outcomes, Interface, Smith G Studio, and Textures Nashville. Thank you to our bronze sponsors, Aberdeen Studio, Alfred Williams & Company, Circa Creative Studios, Dade, EOA Architects, Earl Swenson Associates, and Manuel Zeitlin Architects.
And thank you to our media partners, Dezeen, Lightning 100, and Nashville Interiors, and to creative directors Lindsay and Alan Lassiter.
Nashville Design Week is proud to be a fiscally sponsored project of the Arts and Business Council of Greater Nashville, a nonprofit organization. Nashville Design Week is an entirely volunteer effort made possible by the tireless dedication of our team. Now, let's get started.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Again, welcome to today's session, Hope and Healing, Inspired by Design. We are excited to have architects and designers of the new MNPD Headquarters and Family Safety Center, FSC, along with Diane Lance, the department head for the Office of Family Safety, as they explore the benefits of trauma-informed design and share a virtual tour of the facility, one of the few municipalities in the U.S. to consolidate incident reporting and treatment services under one record-breaking roof. Nashville's FSC provides comprehensive services that minimize the added trauma for survivors that can occur when seeking resources. Environmental triggers can inform our attitude and behavior, making the spaces around us the first opportunity to reshape our response to trauma. With the team today, we will explore some important design questions. How do designers create environments that go beyond accessibility to feel welcoming, promote empowerment, demonstrate safety, and alleviate stress? How can design inspire hope and healing for all of us? Hopefully, this session today will challenge you to implement strategies that promote a sense of safety and calm into your everyday practice. Again, we thank you so much for being here, and now I'm going to pass it off to Allison.
Thanks, Taylor. Morning, everybody. We're so grateful to have you with us today. We have been so overwhelmed with the interest in this session, so we especially want to thank Nashville Design Week and Taylor for helping us get here today. We are excited to share our passion on this topic and hopefully have a great discussion. So I know by now everybody's pretty familiar with this virtual setting, but just a few things if this is your first time on the platform. On the right side panel, you'll see several tabs. We definitely want to have an engaged discussion. So I encourage you to ask questions and share ideas in the chat bar. We'll also have a couple of polls, and you can access our handout on that last tab. Taylor and I will do our best to address questions in the chat as we go through, but we will have a Q&A at the end, so hopefully we won't miss out on anybody's great questions. So as we get started, let's first meet the team. Again, my name is Allison Salisbury. I'm the marketing coordinator with TM Partners, serving as the moderator today, helping out with polls and questions. But I will let our esteemed panel introduce themselves, starting with the TMP design team.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Earwood. I've been at T&P for almost 16 years and served the role of principal in charge for the Family Safety Center project. And much of my experience for the past 10 years or so has been in public safety architecture, specifically police, fire, and emergency communications. And all that experience has helped inform the design of the facility related to the subtle but secure separations of occupant circulation and the arrangement of spaces that prevent building staff, police, and customers from crossing paths unintentionally. Our overall design team, will introduce all of our design team firms later in the presentation, but our design team members presented here today were specifically selected for this project because of their unique talents and experiences as designers. Lori?
My name is Lori Smith, and I'm a project architect at TM Partners and an associate. I have 9 years of experience in a wide range of complicated project types. These project types include healthcare, behavioral health, public safety, and education. And I served as the project architect on the Nashville Family Safety Center.
My name is Rebecca Moore. I'm a senior interior designer and senior associate here at T&P. I serve as a designer for commercial projects. I started here in 2002, so I have 18 plus years experience ranging from corporate, education, higher ed, aviation, public safety, and government projects. And I served as the interior designer on this project, working with the architecture team.
My name is Diane Lance. I am the department organizing the Family Safety Center build and opening.
Okay, now that you've gotten to know us a little bit, we want to get to know you guys as well. We have got a short poll question. I'm going to go ahead and open that up and you can start responding. The question is, what design discipline do you fall under? It'll help us just get to know the group a little bit. What's the makeup of you guys? And also hopefully help us form some connections as we move through the content to all of your different disciplines. It's great for our panel to see the group diversity, but also just for us to kind of share where we all are on the design spectrum. And also as we gather answers, we would love to hear in the chat, just share what your motivation was for your interest in this topic, and maybe just share one goal that you have for today's session. It looks like most people are in architecture, landscape, interior design, similar to our discipline. But we've got a good mix of people, which is exciting. I think there'll be a lot of really great ideas across all disciplines. So I'll share also what our goals are for today. First, we want to start with really just defining trauma and introduce the idea of trauma-informed design, what it looks like, and just help open our minds a little bit to the impacts of trauma and recognize that we all are experiencing it in different ways. Then we want to share the story of the Nashville Family Safety Center, which is a welcoming place of refuge for our community, presented as sort of a case study for trauma-informed design for architecture and interior design. And then lastly, we just want to open up a dialogue with you guys. How do you see these principles reshaping your discipline? We will definitely share some of our strategies, but also hopefully as a group brainstorm many more. Our main goal for today is to just inspire ideas of hope, growth, rebirth, and start to see how design plays a role in healing. So let's get started. And we are going to start with our safety expert, Diane, and open the book on trauma-informed care.
Great, thank you. So in order to figure out how to design a space for a victim suffering from trauma, it's really important to understand what trauma is and what feelings it causes. While some people go through their lives with little or no trauma at all, other people experience trauma every day. For some, that trauma is a one-time event. For others, it can be an ongoing set of abusive experiences. When someone's experiencing trauma, they can feel overwhelmed, like everything around them is spinning out of control. They can feel helpless, and it can feel like the world is no longer the safe place it once appeared to be and as you knew it. Chronic trauma is an ongoing trauma. The clients that come to the building designed by TMP have all suffered from a recent traumatic event or from chronic trauma. Many victims that come to us for help suffer from chronic trauma. Chronic trauma can be ongoing abuse by a single individual over the course of a relationship, but chronic trauma can also be ongoing abuse by different people over the course of a lifetime, such as relatives and dating partners, a spouse. This picture, you can see that web of different types of victimizations that can happen over the course of a lifetime. The Family Safety Center helps victims of interpersonal violence. That includes domestic violence, elder abuse, sexual assault, child abuse, and trafficking. When we began our work with TMP, one of the first things we focused on was helping them understand the experience and feelings of the clients that we work with. And just as we warn them about trigger warnings, I will warn you. Some of the material I'm about to talk about can bring up feelings if you have past experiences or family members who've had past experiences in this area. To help TMP understand our clients, we ask them to just simply imagine being beat up and strangled by the person who's supposed to love you, to imagine that your kids were there, they're screaming hard while being beaten, to move away from your children so that his focus was on you and not them. All the while, you don't know when it will stop, you don't know if you will die, and the last thing you really remember were his hands around your throat, and everything got quiet and dark. When you woke up, he was gone. The kids were crying. You don't know how you ended up in the bedroom, and you called the police. Now just imagine next, the police are driving you and your kids to this family safety center where they say an advocate can help you. This is just one example of the trauma our adult and child clients experience right before they walk into our doors. Sadly, this is not the worst example. It really is a typical example of what we see every day. So when victims arrive at the FSC, they're often experiencing a lot of feelings, as you can imagine, all at the same time. While a really good advocate can help with these feelings, one of the most immediate and strongest tools that we have is the space itself. For example, within 1 month of opening, we had a victim be chased into the building by her offender. The victim was immediately rushed inside and placed in one of our trauma-informed support rooms that TMP created for us. Before even the first advocate was able to speak a word to this woman, the building's design was already giving her comfort and support. Trauma-informed design puts the building to work in helping victims. So on the next slide really shows how trauma affects the mind and the body. When a person experiences trauma or ongoing trauma, it changes which part of the brain they are operating from. Rather than being able to access that part of the brain where you make decisions with logic and reasoning, people in trauma can really only access the more primal part of their brain, which is fight, flight, or freeze. When space design reduces traumatic feelings, it can help a victim return to effective decision-making rather than more scattered, survival-focused thinking. This makes the job of those who are trying to help a lot easier. So the helpers have a lot of trauma too. Another important conversation that we had with TMP was the trauma experienced by the staff in the building. Every person that works with trauma victims takes a slice of that trauma on themselves. That trauma gets embedded in various ways into the helper's personal life. Because you can't walk through the waters of trauma without getting wet yourself, it was very important in our design conversations that equal weight be given to staff space design as it was for client space design.
Thanks so much, Diane. Hopefully we've just kind of started to open your minds a little bit to how many environmental triggers there really are out there for people. And so we kind of wanted to open it up for a bit of self-reflection. So we have another engagement question, and I encourage you to share responses in the chat. The question is 2 parts. First, just think about what kinds of things in your environment might increase your stress level. It could be anything, but maybe think back to a time when you felt out of control. What feelings dominated your outlook? What things in your environment might have made it worse? Maybe you already left the house stressed before you even got to work and something came up in your workplace that was a trigger for you. Now take a breath and think, what would alleviate this stress? What kinds of things help you relax and heal after a stressful day? Picture in your head the ideal environment for you to seek calm. We'd love to see some of your ideas in the chat.
So as Diane was talking about with the definition of trauma, it is clear that trauma can be experienced anywhere. You could be at the bank when you find out that you have financial struggles, or be at work when you find out that your child's been in an accident. So how can we use design to diffuse these stressful situations? So we're going to talk about that next in a video that introduces the concept of trauma-informed design. But at this time, we actually invite you to go over to the handout tab and download our worksheet. We think it'll be great to help you take notes on during this next section. 60 to 75% of people face trauma during their lifetime. Trauma is an event or series of events experienced by an individual that has long-term adverse effects on that individual's mental, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual health.
With the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic and the March tornado that came through Nashville, we have all experienced trauma this year. This is one reason why we feel that trauma-informed design is more important now than ever.
So how can the spaces around us reshape our response to trauma, anxiety, and stress? Today we're going to be discussing trauma-informed design and the principles associated with that. Trauma-informed design involves designing spaces that are welcoming, promote a secure environment, and resist re-traumatization. Today we'll be discussing 5 of the principles of trauma-informed design. The 5 principles we will be discussing are simplicity, choice, connection, prevention, and security.
The first principle we're going to discuss today is simplicity. Steve Jobs said, "Simple can be even harder than complex."
Designing utilizing simplicity can be much harder than you think. One way to do this is through direct building circulation.
Focal points are an easy way to help direct people to where you want them to go. Focal points also help decrease eye fatigue, because when you give your eyes a place to rest, your eyes aren't bouncing around from place to place trying to focus on something, which leads to anxiety and feeling unsettled.
Another way to utilize simplicity is through clear wayfinding.
Wayfinding doesn't have to be just signage. It's actually an incorporation of all your design. Your building design, your ceiling, your flooring, your finishes, all of these can help direct people to where you want them to go in your building.
When you navigate a space, you're also using your perception, your social context skills, decision-making, and reasoning. When you have anxiety about any of these, that can impair your decision-making ability. An example of this is if you don't speak the language that the signage is in, you won't be able to read where you're going, and that immediately causes you to be anxious, and you might make a different decision than if you could read the signage.
The use of calm patterns and colors helps aid in the simplicity of the design to allow users to be able to easily make up their mind about where they need to go. The next principle we're going to talk about is choice. There is a concept called learned helplessness, which is a behavior exhibited by a subject after enduring repeated adverse stimuli beyond their control. What this means is when people feel like they're out of control they just become helpless. They can't even help themselves anymore. They can't make decisions. They can't get themselves out of bad situations. So one thing that's important to do in trauma-informed design is give people a sense of choice. And one way to do this is by letting them have control over things like lighting or thermostats or where they want to sit.
A great way to do this is through a variety of room sizes and seating arrangements. Someone who is coming with their family might want a larger room, or maybe they really enjoy cave-like spaces and would prefer for the lighting to be lower and to be in a smaller room. All of these individual choices will help them feel more comfortable.
Another choice that you can give people is their level of participation. Some people may want to sit across a table from someone so they have a little barrier in between them and the person they're talking to. Some people may want to sit side by side, and that's fine. Giving them the choice lets them to do what makes them feel most comfortable.
Another thing you can do is provide areas of respite. This is really important. You want to provide areas where people can take a break. An example of this is a decompression room for firefighters, or a staff lounge and break room for nurses and doctors, or even a quiet waiting room for patients or clients.
Just incorporating a small phone room where your employees or users of the building can go make a private phone call is an easy way just to let someone have a moment to themselves to do something that they may not want everyone to hear.
The third principle of trauma-informed design is connection. This involves connection to the natural world to promote a sense of calm.
Biophilic design is an important principle that you can integrate into your building design that will help promote the connection with the outside world. Biophilic design is a concept used within the building industry to increase occupant connectivity to the natural environment through the use of direct nature, indirect nature, and space and place conditions.
One way to do this is through views to the exterior. It's really important that you find that connection to the natural world. Daylighting also helps with this. The more sunlight exposure that a person has throughout the day, it's proven to lead to better sleep and more productivity.
The EPA states that Americans spend 87% of their time indoors. With the COVID-19 lockdown, I would say some of us spent even more. When you can't go outside, you have to bring it inside to you, or you will feel disconnected. Human-centric lighting is another principle that you can incorporate into your building. This mimics the natural rhythms and patterns found in nature in the lighting in your building. Not only can you dim the lighting, you can also change the color temperature, which replicates your circadian rhythm from the warm daylight to the cool moonlight during the day.
Another way to encourage connection is through adjacency. This could be adjacent spaces that should be together and adjacent spaces that should not be together. So spaces that should not be together, quiet spaces such as conference rooms, exam rooms, client meeting rooms, should not be adjacent to an HVAC space. Spaces that could be next to each other, or at least have visual connection, are a space where a kid might be and their parents in the next room. You want to make sure you have that visual connection.
Keeping a visual connection is also important for people that want to be participating in something but aren't quite ready. They can be alone together in the space, near but far enough away that they can still feel comfortable.
The fourth principle of trauma-informed design is prevention. This involves removing triggers and resisting re-traumatization.
The concept of color psychology states, the study of hues as a determinant of human behavior. Colors have qualities that can cause certain emotions in people. If you consider the world around you, this is actually very obvious. Colors like blues and greens found in nature help calm you and you feel like you're healing.
Whereas red and yellow, such as used in the McDonald's logo, gives you that energetic feeling and is not somewhere you really want to go to seek solitude.
There's no coincidence that police uniforms are navy blue, Blue symbolizes peace and stability.
But you don't want to take it too far. Stark white walls can lead to a clinical feeling instead of being warm and welcoming.
Even hospitals are trying to appear more like hotels or high-end resorts now instead of having the clinical feeling of a traditional hospital. Light colors can make spaces appear more open and more inviting and less crowded. Spaces that are dark feel more confining and feel like they're more crowded or oppressive than light spaces.
Another thing to think about is sound. Simply the kicking on of the HVAC in a room can sometimes trigger someone, or if your lights hum, that can really interrupt your concentration.
If there's a way you can incorporate visual cues instead of audible cues in your project and limit the amount of paging and distraction of noise in your space, that'll help create a more calm environment. Another thing you need to consider if you're trying to prevent triggers is your use of colors and patterns. Colors and patterns, when used in certain ways, can remind people of negative traumatic events.
Another way to utilize prevention is through providing areas of respite. It's important to provide areas of respite for the staff because if they are overworked, it can lead to absenteeism. You really want them to be able to have a space where they can decompress. The fifth principle of trauma-informed design is security. You want to be able to promote a secure environment through your design.
Benjamin Franklin says, "The most secure place is a prison cell, but there is no liberty." Security is a fine line that you have to balance in your project. You can't have bars on the windows and have a welcoming environment, but you do have to have a sense of security in your building.
You can provide access control and metal detection and a security system, but ideally those would be discreet. Another way to promote security is with crime prevention through environmental design. This involves siting a building in a way that naturally deters crime and provides a secure environment. Another way to utilize crime prevention through environmental design is providing a view from the inside out, but not providing direct access from the outside in. That deters criminals and also makes it a little bit harder to access that first person in the building.
It's also important when you're inside the building to consider your environment that you're going to be spending time in. Allowing people to have their back to a wall so they know no one will come up behind them and startle them helps some people feel secure. Other people want to sit out in the open so they can kind of watch everything that's going on around them. Letting people choose where they feel most secure is very important.
Another way to provide physical security is to provide a progression through a series of spaces. This allows you to control exactly who accesses each of those spaces, and that transition between public and private becomes more flexible. When promoting a secure environment, you can do that through physical security, but also emotional security. Ways to provide emotional security involve utilizing all of your senses. With sight, you want to make sure that you have that direct visual connection to someone. That provides that social context that allows you to feel like you are not alone.
With sounds, you want to be sure that you don't have any alarms going off in the background or that you can hear ambulances going by, something that might trigger a negative reaction in someone.
Or you can do that through the use of soothing music.
Anyone who sleeps with a sound machine or has played lullabies for their child to go to sleep can definitely identify with this. A simple way you can engage your taste in a project is to have an amenity bar where someone can get tea or coffee or a soda. Sometimes these things are extremely soothing for people that are going to be waiting. Maybe provide a little snack. They may not have eaten all day. You don't know where they had to come from in order to get to your building.
All of those things also play into your smell. With the smell, each of those smells can lead to a specific memory. For instance, everybody loves the smell of fresh baked cookies. It just makes you feel at home.
Try to trigger only good memories with your smells. Another way to engage one of your senses is through touch. I know I'm guilty of going to TJ Maxx and rubbing all the soft blankets, and people can do that with furniture, where you can provide throw blankets for people just to sit there and cuddle up. This is why children get so attached to their loveys. Some parents or adults I know still have theirs. We know this has been a real quick overview of trauma-informed design. So just to quickly recap, the 5 principles we discussed today are simplicity, choice, connection, prevention, and security. We hope that you will get creative and dig deep, do some research, and put a little hope and healing in your next project.
Now you can start to see, obviously from our perspective, we're talking mostly about architecture and interior design, but you can kind of hopefully start to make some connections and see that these tenets of trauma-informed design are universal. Hopefully you're already seeing some connections with your own discipline, and we will definitely dig into that soon. But first, we want to tell you our shared story of the Nashville Family Safety Center. We'll start with a short project background, just so you can have some context, but then really spend the time sharing how these trauma-informed design tenets are alive in the FSC. And so first, we want to start with a video from the Office of Family Safety to introduce the Family Safety Center.
Nashville is a community of many blessings, with a generous spirit and a willingness to help our neighbors. And right now, behind closed doors, there is an epidemic in our country. It has no regard for financial status, creed, race, age, or gender. Domestic violence. Thousands of families are affected in our community. Thousands. And behind closed doors, those who have experienced interpersonal violence can feel they are alone, with no way out, no promise of safety, no hope for the future. Fear becomes their constant companion. And the support system of helpful and healing services can feel difficult to access, even intimidating. But Nashville is committed to change the course of this epidemic. Metro's Office of Family Safety, alongside partner agencies, has led a visionary effort to create one of the world's largest facilities dedicated to helping survivors and improving offender accountability, the Family Safety Center. Our city now offers a central location where those who have experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, or child abuse can find a safe place. A place that offers healing and hope within a welcoming community of experts. It's free and confidential. The Family Safety Center. Our doors are open, so theirs will be as well.
Our next bit, we want to introduce the Nashville Family Safety Center. This project was a really great project for TMP, and our team partnered with the Metro General Services and the Office of Family Safety to design this project. So Metro General Services, they were the owner of the building, and they're the ones that will be managing it. And the Office of Family Safety is one of the tenants in the building, but they also manage the kind of day-to-day operations as well. As far as the design team goes, it was a design build project. Messer was the design build contractor, and we were partnered, TM Partners was partnered with Hastings for the design. Hastings was the exterior architect and TMP was the interior architect. And then you can see all of our design partners as well below. This project was on one site. The Metro Nashville Police Headquarters was on one part of the site, joined together by the Metro Nashville Family Safety Center. So all one big project, but today we're going to focus on the Family Safety Center because that's where most of our trauma-informed design principles were implemented.
So Lori did a great job improvising. She took over my role here. I just want to mention that she mentioned that Metro Nashville owns a facility and maintains a facility. The Office of Family Safety is the department of Metro Nashville that provides services through the facility. The team was comprised of a design builder, Messer Construction, and then 2 architects, which contracted separately with Messer. TMP was responsible for the interior architecture and design, and Hastings was responsible for the exterior and site design. And then you can see our other consultants here: Barge Cawthon with civil, EMC with structural, Envision Advantage with MP&E, and Hodgson Douglas with landscape architecture.
I think we've had a few questions come up in the chat. If we want to look at that real quick while we're waiting for Diane. Let's see, I know there was one about addressing security and privacy with the windows. And Lori, I know you're going to speak to that later, but we did have ballistic protection on our windows to address anyone that might come in with a firearm. But you have to be discreet with those things. You don't want to, we talk about that a little later when we do the walkthrough. You'll see we don't have bars on the windows, but it is a very secure facility.
And I'll also add that the exterior windows were tinted so that you couldn't see directly in. Really, the lights on the inside of the building would have to be brighter than the outside so that you can see in. So for the most part, it was pretty secure.
And to address Valerie's question about addressing security and privacy with the windows in the children's area, we'll describe the play pyramid as the focal point of the design later in the presentation. But that's really it is transparent so that the children can be seen from all sides of the facility, from the secure side, from the non-secure side, and from above. And the intention is they're the central focus of the facility, right? In the sense of hope and healing, they're the most innocent victims.
Well, let's go ahead and dig in a little bit to the design concepts. And hopefully we'll keep working to get Diane back, but we can keep going, not hold people up.
Okay, so as we got involved in design with Diane and her team, one of the first things that she provided us with was this list of feeling words. This really helped us shape the design of the building and was really our initial design concepts.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Lord.
So also this is sort of a workflow diagram because there were so many different departments within the building. It was hard to see how they all connected and how they work together. So this really shows how integrated their workflows were. It also helped us determine building adjacencies.
So, a reminder that the presentation today is about trauma-informed design strategies and how design can create a space of hope and healing to facilitate recovery and prevent re-traumatization. There were 2 primary spatial organization strategies that evolved from us visiting other family safety centers. I think we went to visit 2 at least, and from charrettes with Diane and her team. One of the primary things that came out of those 2 things, the site visits and the charrettes, were the need for clear, wide paths of circulation and a central focus point, right? So remember the concepts that Lori and Rebecca presented in the video. So these diagrams are as basic as it gets, but in the end, were the drivers of what became the final floor plan. So the central spine defines large blocks of space, and vertical circulation elements divert occupant flows to prevent re-traumatization. So, one of the main flows of building users we wanted to prevent was uniformed officers mixing with the clients. So at the crossroads became the focal point, the play pyramid. It was initially conceived as a triangular glass volume or a prism that would penetrate the building as a skylight through the roof and reach the lower floor through 3 floors of the building as some space. And at the time, we didn't know what space that would be. But even as we went along, even the word prism became a trigger word, being too similar to prison, right? So it simply became known as the pyramid. We'll stay on the slide for a second, but the site's on a small hill that has fantastic views of downtown. So the skylight concept would have been a lantern, a beacon of hope, healing, and recovery. But as the design evolved, various factors eliminated the skylight concept, but the pyramid remained as an internal focal point. It does a lot of things for the design of the facility. Being glass, it maintains visual continuity from secure to non-secure, and visibility from above. It brings daylight into the center of the building at all levels through clear story windows, and it contains the most important space in the building, a play area for the most innocent victims, which are the children. So you'll hear some stories related to the play pyramid as we move along and see more images that describe its integration as a focal point and pivot point of the design.
This picture shows part of the finished palette. This isn't everything that we used, but this is kind of where we started. This project actually had to go all the way through Mayor Berry's office. We had to take all of these finishes through the security guards in the metal detector and go into her office and lay them out on her big conference table. And she reviewed everything. And her main mission was this palette had to be timeless. This building was a long time in the making, and we had to be sure we weren't going to use anything that was going to trend out or date itself really easily. And from Diane's team, once again, they gave us a feeling word. They wanted homey. Homey isn't a design term that I ever use, but it was more of that's what they wanted it to feel like. So what we tried to do is we used cues from biophilic design. As you can see, there's natural elements seen in the palette here. We tried to include some subtle symbolism. The floor tile, you can barely see it. It's on the very far left. It mimics an oxidized iron, which is representative of beautiful changes that come about from when stress is applied to something. Similar to these people that are coming to this building for help to receive services or under stress, we want them to leave here more beautiful and healed. Another thing you see, there's movement going on in the resin panels and some of the patternings, and that's kind of symbolizing the progression of healing that we're hoping to instill in the space. We tried to keep the palette mostly neutral. We focused on textures and combinations of layering different elements in the design to keep it interesting, but it also had to be simple and soothing so it wouldn't be overwhelming.
So now we just kind of want to take you on a tour of the building. Normally, we would give you a video walkthrough, but for security reasons, we really can just give you a photo walkthrough at this point. But we thought that would be more helpful to bring up the trauma-informed design elements in each of these rooms. So this is your first view when you walk into the building. Diane and her team really wanted this wall to feel welcoming. And quite literally, welcome is written in 27 different languages on this wall. These languages were specifically chosen because they are the most commonly spoken languages in Davidson County schools. This is also a great example of trauma-informed graphic design for you graphic designers out there. Something that you don't see that's hidden is that this is actually a ballistic wall. It's meant to provide ballistic protection for both the clients and the staff, and that window is ballistic glass. So just a discrete integrated feature that you would never know if I hadn't have told you.
Sorry, my unmute there wasn't working for a second. There's a few things in here that are COVID additions, the little waiting chairs there and the hand sanitizer, of course. But what you can see on the left of this picture is we have a row of built-in lockers. That's for personal belongings of the victims that come into these spaces. I know lots of victims probably carry mace or tasers or personal protection devices, and we don't encourage bringing those back into the space for the safety of everyone that's in the waiting room. So they're assigned a locker where they can leave their personal belongings here. And also the resin panel above, what you don't see is this is actually a visual screening for the metal detector that's right on the other side of this resin wall. We didn't want the metal detector to be the first thing you saw when you walk into the space, because that's absolutely not very welcoming. So we wanted to do something that still had some visual connection. If someone is waiting at the metal detector, they can still see if someone is walking into the space, but it's a visual divider just to kind of screen all that protective equipment over there.
So one of the first things that you see in the building is this living room. This was really an important focus of the design. Diane wanted a new client to feel important from their first step into the building. And so seeing this fireplace, it really became the focal point of this living room.
Similar to residential design, where the fireplace becomes a focal point in your house, we wanted to make the fireplace the focal point of this living room. So we kind of designed everything around this space, the lighting and the soffits and the floor pattern, everything kind of centralizes around the fireplace. It's also double-sided, so when you're walking down the corridor, you don't have a hiding point where you can't see someone that might be waiting on the other side. So it's also visually open, but it gives you a place to gather, and you can see the sense of choice here that's offered. You can gather around the fireplace, or you can sit with your back away from people if you want to, or you can sit over by the play pyramid, which you see on the very far back space. There's an amenity bar here that's offered to engage your sense of taste and smell, good smells. So you can have refreshments here for your kids, and you can watch them play in that play pyramid over there on the side. And you also see there's a desk built in the back where the employees can sit and watch the children in the play pyramid if the parent happens to be receiving services in one of the treatment rooms. And there's lighting above this reception desk. And what you can't obviously see in this photo is that there's a light behind this desk that serves as a visual cue. If someone in one of these services rooms needs assistance, that light will go on and off and trigger the person that's sitting at the desk an alert that knows that they need to go give assistance to someone in one of the treatment rooms. This is the back place, the back view of the fireplace that I was talking about. You can see how you can see through it into the waiting room right there. One thing we really wanted to do was create those focal points and keep people looking forward, because you're wanting to inspire some hope that just keep moving forward, take the step, keep moving, you're doing it, you're doing great. And a little hidden element here of design is our chair rail. While it's there to promote a residential feeling, it's also wall protection, and it's there to help for the officers that escort some of these victims here. Their gun belts rub the wall right at that height and tends to mar the wall. So we put that there to be wall protection and also tied into the residential feeling.
And in the right picture, you can see a image of one of the support rooms. So the clients that this building serves could have experienced elder abuse or domestic violence, or perhaps they need an order of protection. So it was really important. A lot of emphasis was spent on designing these support rooms. So, all of the support rooms are different sizes, and the lighting and temperature can be adjusted by the client that's in that specific room. And then you can also see some of them have attached children play areas, such as this one, and they all have a view via TV monitor into the play pyramid in case their kid chooses to stay in there. And this play pyramid really is the beacon of the building. Everything is organized around it, and it's the central focus. We really wanted this to provide like a lot of overlooks so that the staff can watch the kids. But also we wanted the children to be the focus because they can help provide hope for both the clients and the staff. This play pyramid provides a sense of wonder for the kids. There's mirrored glazing, and the kids love to dance in front of it, and lots of things that can spark their imagination in the space. Including above it is actually these lights. So you can look up in the play pyramid to see these lights, and they begin to look like stars at night.
This slide shows part of the monumental stair that goes up and wraps around the play pyramid. There's also the symbolism of the origami birds there on the panels on the wall. We have some of these wall graphics at important moments in the building, and one of the reasons we worked with Diane and her team very closely on this is the origami. It's all about symbolism. You start with a flat piece of paper, it gets transformed into something beautiful, and it takes flight. And that's the purpose of this building, trying to help people, not only the people that are coming here for services, but to encourage the people that work in the building that they're doing a good thing. They're helping people regain their lives. And you can see that the stair continues up and around the play pyramid.
So this stair we designed at a wider width to allow for natural collaboration for the staff as they all kind of run into each other, but also the stair is continuous and turns. It allows that focal point to happen so that you're always looking up, which gives you a sense of hope. Here you can see really how much daylight this pyramid helps bring into the client services spaces. Because of the sensitivity of the nature, you really want to focus the clients into the inside of the building, but we still wanted to be able to provide daylight into that center. So you can see the windows here help provide that.
This stair right here that you can see a man going up, these are all people from our office, so don't worry, we're not violating anyone's privacy by using these photos. These are not clients. But you can see as he goes up the stairwell, you can see a little bit of shadowing behind them, and that's actually from the lighting pendants that are suspended above the pyramid. It's a fun feature because as you go up the stairwell, it feels like you're going up into the lights, like you're going up into the stars. And that's another visual there of the lights above the pyramid.
The great thing about the pyramid is too, the sound from the kids playing really wafts up into this space. So you get that really nice sense of hope, and it makes you smile a little bit to hear them playing together. This floor is actually a shell space or future growth space floor. Because the Metro Office of Family Safety, they work so collaboratively with each of the agencies. They could add a different agency at any time, and they also hope to have a large training space one day. So this growth space helps provide that for them. This space is also happens to be a lobby up on the 3rd floor. So right now it's actually serving as kind of a decompression space for the staff of the Family Safety Center. They come up here when they need a little bit of rest or just to escape what's going on. And here you can see just how many overlooks into the play pyramid there are for the staff. Every floor has something, down from the bar top on the first floor, overlooks on the second floor and the third floor. So the Nashville Children's Alliance was also another space in the building that we designed. And the Nashville Children's Alliance, they consolidate services for children. And these services include therapy and forensic interviews, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But since these children could have experienced child abuse, this is also another sensitive area. And we wanted to make sure that the kids felt welcomed and special. We also hope to spark a little bit of their imagination as well. We want them to still be kids when it comes down to it. So one of the first things that they see when they enter the building is this reception desk, and there's teddy bear cubbies behind it. These are the teddy bears that they get to choose for themselves whenever they go to court.
Hey, I want to jump in real quick before I forget. I want to mention, since Diane, she's chatting, but I don't know if we've lost her completely from an audio standpoint. A couple of things I wanted to throw in here. The play pyramid is so important. A lot of these spaces are so important from a design aspect, in the sense of you can tell that money was spent, right? And so it needs to be a place that is comfortable, appealing, a place that a person wants to come back to, right? So you can imagine it's really hard for some of these people to gather the courage to come to this facility to seek help. And so they're more likely to come back to seek additional help to facilitate a full recovery and healing process if the spaces they're coming to are pleasant, peaceful, well-designed, a place they would like to spend time. So the play pyramid is super important for the kids, because a lot of times kids, for those of us that have them, your life kind of revolves around them, right? So if the kids don't want to go and they're kicking and screaming, that person's not going to be able to come back for the healing and recovery that they need. So the play pyramid, it's like, your kids would rather go to a McDonald's with a play place, right, than one without one. So it's kind of that concept. Sorry to interrupt.
This picture here shows our waiting area of the NCA. One of the first things we discovered is when we were laying out our spaces, darn it, that structural engineer has a column right in the middle of our waiting room, and that's just not going to look very nice. So what we tried to do is take that column and turn it into a design feature. Couldn't spend endless amounts of money, so we did it with a simple column wrap and some gyp clouds suspended. We put a few little sparkly lights up there to kind of mimic a tree canopy. We used some river rock stone on some solid surface benches with some resin panels that have like a kind of like a bear grass type feel to just make a little natural enclosure. We didn't want to like put up a gate and fence, but we needed a little space to kind of contain the children where their parents could also sit. So there's built-in benches along here, and then a play area in the middle, central on the TV, where kids can watch movies, or there's bookcases there for toy storage as well. And just tried to create something a little different and fun. These children have experienced unimaginable trauma. A lot of them have been sexually abused. There's an amenity counter in this area as well in the back, where there's a little snack bar. There's, if you can see the glazing that has the film applied to it, these are little small subweight rooms, or you can even receive some treatment in these rooms. So there's good adjacency here for the children and for the parents, and we're still providing privacy in these areas. The picture on the left shows one of the corridors that's in the NCA play area. This is a scary time for the children. As soon as they leave the waiting area, they're escorted down one of these hallways, and they're either going to therapy, they could be going to a forensic interview, it's a traumatic time. So acoustics are really, really important in this space for privacy and to make sure that no one's overhearing things that they shouldn't. So we wanted to incorporate a lot of acoustics in this space. We have an acoustic backing on the luxury vinyl flooring that's down there. And we created these fun little acoustic panels on the wall, not only for acoustics, but they're fun. They're fun for their kids. They're all different. They all have different textures. So it encourages the kids to engage one of their senses of touch and to touch these. And it just becomes kind of a little, hopefully a fun reminder of the space. The area on the right shows one of the therapy rooms. This one is used for play therapy. You can see there's a sand table in the back. There's a mix of these rooms for different types of uses. Rooms that are going to be used where children are talking and sitting kind of on the floor to make it a more casual and informal setting have carpet. Rooms that have sand tables and a lot of play that might get messy, like art therapy and things. We use the luxury vinyl flooring in there just for maintenance, and it creates a nice variety of spaces, once again, giving them choice.
So this is an example of a forensic interview room. We haven't talked about this yet, but a forensic interview is where a forensic interviewer can gain details about possible child abuse from a child in his or her words. So this is a really important space because these interviews are admissible in court. So the audio and the visuals in this space have to be very high quality. So we have built-in cameras and microphones in each of these rooms, and the children know that they're being interviewed, but hopefully going down the nice hallway with the felt panels and into this room that really has great art, and they can draw, they can speak, all of those things. Hopefully it makes them feel welcomed and more calm. On the right side, you can see the overlooking view for the people who are watching the interview. The forensic interviewer can also go into this room to consult them for their opinions on how the interview is going as well.
We wanted to show you this space. I know it may not look super exciting, like we don't have a jungle in here or anything, but this shows the level of design that was used for the areas where people work, for the staff. They also have a sense of choice. They can sit in private little cubbies. They can sit at the raised top at stools. The connection to the right over there goes into the play pyramid. Once again, there's a bar seating right there where they can see in, but the children cannot see them. So if they want to sit there and observe and just take a little break and remind themselves of why they're there, that's a good connection to have for the staff to remind them why they're doing this important work. This area is another staff area. Diane wanted to be sure that the staff had areas where they could go and decompress, and these are actually little phone booth rooms that we created. Sometimes it's for personal use and sometimes it's for some difficult phone calls for work. But we created these little graphics. You can see animals are pretty universally loved, and so we used a lot of images of animals doing funny things. These are talking through cans connected with a string between the two different rooms. We also have a duck and fish. There's a couple of different ones throughout the building.
I believe Diane would jump in here if she can talk.
Lori?
Okay, go ahead.
Lori?
Yes.
Great. So, sorry, I'm now on audio, but this is the staff workout room. And the staff workout room really helps relieve staff stress and trauma. It's such a great place that police and the next door headquarters actually prefer it to the one that they have. The woman on the treadmill in this photo is a counselor who often does a quick 15-minute workout session between counseling sessions. This helps her process the trauma that she has heard so she can reduce her own level of trauma load and be fresh for her next client. As an aside, I want to point out that you see the windows go floor to ceiling, and TMP did just where all those are placed. I mean, right now on a rainy day, it's one of our most enchanted times in this building to watch the water slowly drizzle down these floor to ceiling windows. So an extra bonus that we have.
Thanks, Diane. This is another example of areas of collaboration that we have in this building. We use all the eddies that happen from the circulation to create these sort of breakout areas and allow for natural collaboration to happen. You can see one here in the foreground, and there's another one in the background as well that happens kind of in an office corridor. Just a little bit of areas of breathing room and kind of respite as well.
This slide shows the shared break room. This area actually connects the police headquarters with the Family Safety Center. So there's a shared break room down on the bottom level, and we have a long corridor that is adjacent to it, and we didn't want it to feel like a long, dark corridor, so we decided to break it up, which is kind of a partial height wall and some fun resin panels. Almost gives like an underwater feeling and maybe some bubbles up there in the sky, but we also had a lot of ductwork we had to work around, so we popped down these suspended gyp clouds at different heights, trying to dodge all that mechanical equipment up there. And what you don't see in this picture is on the right side, there's a long graphic of the skyline of Nashville that's really nice to look at when you're going down that hall. And these resin panels, as you walk by, they offer different layers of being able to see into the room visibly. So when you look at it here, it's a full screen, but as you walk by, you can see people that are in this room.
We're really thankful for this joint space. Early on when we moved in here, a police officer was killed in the line of duty. And because we had this space and it is so beautiful, our building was able, on our side, on the Family Safety Center side, to decorate it with words of condolences and support, and leave daily homemade cookies for all the officers in the headquarters throughout the week. All the touches that TMP did in this has made this space be able to be used for so many purposes. And now with COVID, we're going to work to probably make it a larger training space for us. And we often use it with media because they love those blue panels that you can see going down as a backdrop for interviews.
Thanks, guys. So before we get into discussion, I definitely wanted to give Diane a chance, now that she's back, to now that you've walked through the space virtually and seen some of those trauma-informed principles at play, just let Diane talk a little bit about how they use this space and what their mission and goals are for it. Diane, you want to jump back in?
Sure, I will. And again, I'm sorry, I did put some notes in the chat as you all were talking until we figured out this workaround solution. But, you know, the Family Safety Center is a decades dream for the city to have an all-in-one place where victims can get the services they need, so they don't have to go to multiple service providers at different parts of the country. I don't know if you all did see the slide that talks about the Family Safety Center partners, but you know, we have police in here full-time, the district attorney's office, juvenile court, there it is. You know, several divisions of the police department, the Department of Children's Services. We have lots of police detective partners over in the headquarters side too, the divisions we work most with, crimes against children, sexual assault, and domestic violence. And then nonprofit partners work out of this space on weekly or daily basis as well. And then we have lots of multidisciplinary teams that meet in some of these beautiful conference room spaces. So it was a big vision to build a family safety center. This is the biggest family safety center in the world. It is held up as the example. The annual conference for family safety centers is coming to Nashville in a few weeks to showcase this building virtually at that conference. So this is what we're about. It's about making things easier for the victims by co-locating us all in one trauma-informed space. As far as some features in the building, just to wrap back as things that we would have wanted to bring up, I just can't say enough about the play pyramid. I put it in the chat box, but this is a true highlight of the building. The children, again, are kids of chronic and ongoing trauma, and when they come in there the first time, they still kind of, they're a little hesitant, but they grab the toys. You can see the big blue blocks. Because that space is so big, they can build enormous structures with it, knock it all down. No one's getting hurt. They dance in front of the mirrored wall, try to toss balls up to see if they can hit the pinnacle 3 stories up. It allows kids to play big with their bodies. And that's what these kids who have experienced trauma need. They don't need to be told to sit still and be good and be quiet. They need to be a little bad and be like kids. And when a child has a wonderful time at our center, that child's going to ask to come back, which is going to make it easier for that caregiver to make the decision to come back to us again. And that is the pathway to safety.
Thank you so much, Diane and team, for sharing all those trauma-informed principles in action. Trauma-informed design is all about hope and dignity. And we see the FSC as such a powerful retelling of that story, because those are at the core of the FSC mission and what they do every day. But our goal for today also is for everyone to see and understand that these tenets could be applied to any discipline in any environment. So we want to open it up for more discussion, and obviously keep sending in those questions. We've had some really good ones and we're trying to keep track. But we've posed this question to start conversation. How can you see these concepts of trauma-informed design applied to your discipline? We want to dig deeper and just start thinking about how, we've got a pretty diverse group in the webinar today. So consider these questions. How do you see trauma-informed design reshaping the communities that you participate in? And what changes do you see happening? As we get ideas going, and get to question and answers, we definitely don't want to ignore the additional changes that the FSC has had to deal with this year. I think we can all agree that 2020 has brought its challenges. And so we wanted to give Diane an opportunity as well to show how the FSC and the Family Safety Center and the different partners have been able to use this space this year.
Thanks, Allison. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Like everyone else, great. We've had to make some real adjustments to our building with COVID, but even before that with the tornado. So an entire Department of Children's Services relocated into this building with the tornado, and it was absolutely seamless. They walked in, about 40, 45 of them, and we just said, pick counter seating. Any raised seating you can sit at, and it was seamless in this building because TMP added so much extra impromptu workspaces throughout the building. This photo here, though, shows how we were able to change our entire client flow to a different part of the building. A family safety center's essence is shared space among professional partners, but with COVID, that doesn't work at all. So as a result, we had to divide the building up by agency within the building. So each agency took over a component of the building. And then we had to change how clients flowed through the building depending on what agency they were meeting with. Fortunately, TMP, as I said, included a lot of flex space in this building, which has really saved the day as we have turned how clients flow into this building completely upside down. The photo that we just left shows our new client entrance and all the COVID precautions there. This photo is our training room as we were using it normally prior to COVID. Running down the middle of this room is a room divider. I had really regretted that divider because we never used it and I knew it was expensive. But when we needed to change our client spaces as a result of COVID, I was extremely grateful for this divider. So here is a picture of how we split that training room into 2 rooms. One of the biggest perks was the magnet board, which is great because then we had something that kids could play with in the room while their parent is working at that video conferencing unit with an advocate who is working from their home. Both sides were also equipped with TVs. So although I normally would not want kids who experience trauma to watch TV, we don't have a choice here. Bathrooms are right outside of each door, so there's some privacy, and everything in these 2 rooms is really easy to keep clean and sterilized. So it's been a great use of training space. As you can see in this next slide, this is our 3rd client room as we've turned the building upside down. And then we have other spaces that we have segmented off for police and our over the night and weekend nonprofit service provider. This last picture that I'm going to show you is how we've obviously used plexiglass to create safety for all the others that work in the building. These are now throughout the building on counters and rolling plexiglass to divide up workspaces even more. And this area that you're seeing now has been sectioned off for that 24/7 after hours work with clients to help them with orders of protection. So the building it didn't feel easy at the time, but in reflection, we were really lucky and it was very easy to adapt to today's needs.
Thank you, Diane. So we've got some good questions coming in. One of the questions was the reason for the roof of the pyramid. I think, Jeff, you might have hit that in the chat.
Yeah, I sent a response back to Valerie. But yeah, the roof of the pyramid wasn't a code requirement or a smoke barrier or anything. It was fun to try and get sprinkler piping. We did have to sprinkle the interior of the pyramid, get sprinkler piping, HVAC into that thing in a subtle way, right? So you didn't just see this huge connection of duct but really the form of the thing, the roof is on the cap is on the form of the thing to carry through the prison. See, I said it. Diane's going to hit me, but the pyramid concept, right? And it also contains the noise. Now, the acoustics in the pyramid initially were a little teeth grinding, but once it was filled with all the soft, play blocks and things like that, the acoustics got much better. But it's really amazing how it being glass, you can still hear, but it's not like, geez, let's go over here so we can hear ourselves talk, right? It's just a faint, again, reminder audibly of the central focus of the facility.
Another question, curious about the wayfinding package ADA required signage choices made for the building.
Yeah, it was important for Diane that the signage reflect the different departments in the building. So the 3 colors that are actually on this slide are actually the 3 colors that represent sort of domestic violence, child abuse, and safety. So those 3 colors were utilized in the signage throughout the building to kind of combine that like unifying look for all the spaces.
And we can't show you a floor plan here, but if we could, you could see that the wayfinding, the way the building circulation is defined and where there's access doors and things like that was very intentional to make sure that once you're in a department, you can really find where you need to go easily. So if we had had a real tour, you would have seen a lot of that firsthand.
We had another question about security and privacy. With domestic violence and even child custody situations, is there a check-in or background check system outside of the metal detectors? Maybe Diane, you can talk a little bit about the process of people coming in.
Sure. We're funded by Metro government, but also by state and federal grant funders. And doing background checks is not something that we do. We do a quick check to make sure there's not a really direct conflict, like the offender is in the building. That is the offender for the victim that's in the building walking in, things like that, but no deep background checks. And people, take a quick trip through that living room. So that's sort of your touch point on and off through your visit here, but not where you're sitting and gathering for very long. Those support rooms are private. So even if there was an unfortunate incident where, the mother of the offender is in the building and the victim is in the building and there are issues there, the likelihood that they would cross paths is very slim.
Perfect, thank you. There was a comment about the design, the user-inspired design. Lori, Rebecca, do you guys want to talk a little bit about how the users were engaged in the design process, or what kinds of things came to surface throughout the design process to make it user-inspired?
Joanne and her team, when we originally got started, they put together a strategic planning committee. And this committee actually was some of them were part of the departments that would be going in there, but they also had survivors of trauma who were in this, giving us feedback on certain things. So a lot of our conversations were involved around those survivors giving us feedback, and then also the staff and potential clients kind of looking at it cohesively and giving us all feedback during design.
I'm going to add that, Lori, everything we ran through survivors.
Did we lose Diane again?
I believe Diane said everything that was done for the design of the building was ran through the survivors to make sure that we were being really mindful of anything that we may have missed or not thought of. So it was very important to involve not only the staff and users of the building, but people receiving treatment and counseling there to make sure that we were being as mindful as possible of everyone's experience in the building. And Diane was super great at helping us engage all those different departments.
Rebecca, do you also want to talk a little bit more about the intentional art pieces through the building? There's a question about other art pieces. I know we showed the origami birds and the phone booths. Was there anything else?
We did do several different wall graphics in the building, the origami birds, and there's several wall graphics of the phone booths. They're all talking on some sort of communication device, either a can on a string, or I think the one with a fish has a old phone receiver like floating down in the water. We did have a few more that ended up kind of scaling back. We did keep the big mural of Nashville, which is nice. It even has cranes, building cranes in it. So it's a pretty realistic depiction of Nashville at its current state. But we have several of those throughout the building. The miscellaneous art pieces were kind of a collaboration effort. Metro General Services led the furniture of this building and art. A big portion of the furniture and art for this building was donated from HCA. So that was a huge undertaking on trying to figure out where to reuse some existing pieces. We worked together on selecting some fabrics and upholsteries and things like that that might have a more biophilic feel or calm. There's a little bit of yellow in the building, kind of like to spark joy and hope. bring a little fun to the space. So it was a big team that did all this, and we were very fortunate to have great partners.
Thank you. Well, as we wrap up, we'll see if there's any more questions that come in. We just want to express our gratitude to have you guys participate in this journey to hope and healing with us today. And I hope at least you're continuing your day with some trauma-informed tools for your design toolbox, or at least just a more open mind to the things the person next to you could be experiencing and how we as designers can mitigate that. You can learn more about this project on TMP's website, and feel free to contact our design team. You can see their emails there if you have more questions or you want to hear more stories or learn more. And we also encourage you to share the message of the Family Safety Center with people that you know that might benefit from their services. They are open right now, and they're 24/7, and their services are all free and confidential. And you can learn more about the myriad of services that they provide to people on their website and social media outlets. But if there's someone that you know that is in crisis, please refer them to the Family Safety Center or the Tennessee Domestic Violence Hotline using the contact info here. Their address and phone numbers are right there. We know that design plays a dynamic role in how we perceive our environment and each other, and it's our responsibility as designers to do anything we can to generate empathy and channel hope and dignity. So hopefully these getting some insight into trauma-informed design principles will help you as you continue your week and continue your practice. And we just encourage you to keep exploring the question, how can we reshape our communities with trauma-informed design? So thanks, guys. We really appreciate your time and hope you have a great week and are able to participate in other great Nashville Design Week programming.